She was thrown out like she meant nothing. Years later, she walked back in not as a servant, but as the woman who owned everything. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Sandra was only 12 when life forced her to grow up. The village she came from had nothing, no steady food, no proper school, no promise that tomorrow would be better than today. Her mother was all she had, and even that was slipping away. Illness had reduced the once strong woman to a shadow. Her cough echoed through their small, broken hut like a warning. Then one evening, as the sun sank into the dusty horizon, her mother made a decision that would change everything. Sandra was sent to the city, not for dreams, not for opportunity, but for survival. The city swallowed her whole. Tall buildings, loud voices, endless movement. Everything made her feel smaller than she had ever felt. But nothing terrified her more than the mansion. It stood like a different world, clean, polished, and cold. That was where she met Madame Rose. From the very first moment, Sandra knew she was not welcome. Madame Rose's eyes held no kindness, only judgment. To her, Sandra was not a child. She was labor. And so the work began. Her new life became a cycle of exhaustion and humiliation. She woke before everyone, slept long after the house went silent. Her hands were never still, washing, scrubbing, carrying, cleaning. And no matter how hard she worked, it was never enough. Sonia made sure of that. She found joy in reminding Sandra of her place. Every mistake, real or imagined, became punishment. Sometimes, even when Sandra did everything right, Sonia created problems just to watch her struggle. Food was never certain. Kindness was never given. And at night, when the house finally slept, Sandra sat in the darkness. Hungry, tired, heavy. But in that darkness, something else began to grow. She started to watch. From a distance, she observed Sonia studying. She listened, memorized, tried to understand. Slowly, words began to make sense. Numbers, too, like pieces of a puzzle finding their place. Then one night, she found it. An old, discarded textbook. To anyone else, it was trash. To Sandra, it was treasure. Under the faintest light, she began to teach herself, slowly, painfully, but steadily. And for the first time since leaving her village, she felt something close to hope. But in that house, hope was dangerous. The day Madame Rose found her with the book, everything changed. The anger was immediate, cold, unforgiving. Education was not meant for someone like Sandra. Dreams were not part of her job. The book was taken, her effort dismissed. But something had already shifted inside her. She could no longer pretend she didn't want more. Not everyone was blind. Mr. Okiki saw her. Quietly, without drawing attention, he helped in small ways. A notebook, a moment of encouragement, a silent belief. And outside the gate, there was Auntie Bisi. Food when she was starving, kindness when she felt invisible, and eventually, an opportunity, a small evening school. Her life became even harder. By day, she was still the housegirl. By night, she became a student. Sleep disappeared. Her body begged her to stop. But she didn't. Because now, she wasn't just surviving. She was moving forward. Then the results came. She didn't expect much, but she came first. For a moment, everything made sense. The hunger, the sleepless nights, the silent tears. It had led to something real, something undeniable. And then it was taken away. Madame Rose found out. No pride, no recognition, only anger. By the end of that day, Sandra was thrown out. No warning, no second chance. Just like that, she was back on the streets, with nothing but a dream that refused to die. The city felt different now, not overwhelming, merciless. Days passed. Hunger returned. Fear grew. She began to slip, until everything changed. A car stopped. A stranger stepped out. He looked at her differently, not with pity, not with judgment, but with curiosity. He noticed the notebook, and that was enough. David Cole. The turning point she never saw coming. He didn't offer sympathy. He offered a chance. And this time, Sandra was ready. Years passed. The weak girl disappeared. In her place, someone stronger, sharper, unstoppable. Education opened doors. Opportunities followed, and step by step, she built the impossible. Until one day, she stood at the top. The office was quiet, polished, powerful, like the mansion she once feared. But this time, she wasn't the outsider. She was in control. Sandra Cole, CEO, but life wasn't finished. Because one ordinary day, something arrived. A file, a name, a past that refused to stay buried, a property, urgent sale, owned by Madame Rose. Time stopped. Memories rushed back. The hunger, the pain, the silence. The girl she was met the woman she had become. This wasn't survival anymore. This was power. Sandra closed the file, her face unreadable. Then she gave one instruction, simple, decisive, dangerous. The meeting was arranged. The meeting was set for the next morning. Sandra barely slept. Not because she was unsure, those days were long gone, but because the past has a way of reopening wounds you thought had healed. Faces, voices, moments. They returned sharp and clear. For years, she had built a life far above where she started. She had trained herself not to look back. But now, the past had come to her, and it was asking for something. Morning arrived heavy with silence. Amara stood before the mirror in her office. Her suit was flawless tailored, precise. A reflection of everything she had become. Powerful, composed, untouchable. There was no trace of the frightened girl she used to be. Only her eyes told the truth. They remembered. Madame Rose walked into the building very differently. Her world was falling apart. Her husband's business gone. Investments failed. Friends disappeared. Even respect had turned into whispers. Selling her property wasn't a choice. It was survival. Yet pride still clung to her, like a shadow she couldn't shake. Until she stepped into the conference room. The moment their eyes met, everything shifted. Madame Rose paused. Something felt familiar. The woman seated across from her, calm, silent, controlled, unsettling. Sandra recognized her instantly. Time had changed Madame Rose, but not enough. Not enough to erase the past. Silence stretched between them, heavy, unspoken. The meeting began. Documents were placed, numbers explained, terms discussed. Sandra's voice remained steady, professional, distant, like none of this was personal. And somehow, that made it worse. Because slowly, Madame Rose began to feel it. The shift, the imbalance, the loss of control. Then it happened. Her eyes fell on the document. A name. Sandra Cole. She repeated it in her mind. Once. Twice. Then it hit her. Like something breaking inside. Sandra. The house girl. The room tightened. Her expression changed. Confusion, disbelief, then something unfamiliar. Unease. Sandra didn't rush. She let the silence settle. Then she looked up. Fully. Steady. Unshaken. There was no anger in her eyes. No bitterness. Only truth. Madame Rose tried to speak. But for the first time in her life, she didn't know how. Authority was gone. Control gone. Everything she once stood on, gone. And across from her was the girl she once treated as nothing. The weight of it became unbearable. Because now she understood something she had never considered before. She had helped create the very person now holding her fate. The meeting continued, but nothing felt the same. Every word Madame Rose spoke carried hesitation. Every glance carried regret. But Sandra remained still, unreadable. Inside her, a storm. This moment, she had been moving toward it without even knowing. a point where everything could balance. She had choices. She could walk away, let Madame Rose lose everything. She could remind her of every pain, every night, every humiliation, and no one would question her. But something stopped her. Not weakness, not forgiveness, something deeper. She remembered the hunger, the loneliness, the nights she almost gave up. And she realized something uncomfortable. Her strength did not come from Madame Rose. It came from herself. The final documents were placed on the table. Silence again. Madame Rose looked at them, then at Sandra. This was it. Sandra picked up the pen. It hovered. Just for a second. The past and the present, standing side by side. Then, she made her decision. She signed. But not the way anyone expected. The deal went through. The property now belonged to Amara. But instead of destroying everything, she did something else.